Our next guest really needs no introduction. He's been on television countless times. He's harangued Sesame people like yourself. He's given people a hard time. Sometimes he's given them money. Sometimes he's told them to, well, go away. Ladies and gentlemen, can I introduce James Caan?
I think what Matt was really talking about was technology and how technology empowers businesses. But I think as an entrepreneur, I see that very much as enabling a business. But I think where I focus very much on is the actual business itself. What is the entrepreneurial world and how a business has really grown? And I think from my own personal experience, when I launched my first business, which was Alexander Mann, the whole journey of establishing and building a business for me was probably the toughest thing I ever did, because whilst the theory of business looks really good, you know, let's set up a website, let's start a business, and customers will come, products will sell, money gets banked, everybody pays on time, we have no litigation, there are no problems, banks lend loads of money. In reality, as I'm sure you know, that didn't really work. So I think for me, the key kind of journey of business, and I think the bit that I admire the most about Google is not necessarily the idea. And I think Google is a brilliant example where it's not about the idea. The concept of search in itself, I don't think is phenomenally unique, but the execution of that idea, the execution of how you take that idea and you turn that into a business that turns over 24 billion a year, to me is kind of the core of what I believe in terms of business. In 2006, I launched a business called Hamilton Bradshaw Human Capital, which is a new business I launched, and we made that into the top 50 businesses in the world in its particular space. And the core focus for me in what enabled me to do that, in principle, was understanding how you scale a business. I think a lot of the businesses in this room, I think you're really in the kind of 1 to 25 million range. And I think at that level of size of business, to me, the key is scalability. How do you take that business and how do you scale that business? And I think the business that we've recently established, Hamilton Bradshaw Venture Partners, is all about the principle of scale. Because to me, whilst you, the entrepreneur, passionate, believe in the business, understand the business, but how do you take that from 10 million to 20, 30, 50 million? And a lot of the journey that I've kind of experienced, and I've made lots of mistakes in the past, is knowing, you know, to what extent does technology really make that difference? I think, like in today's example, I think the economy right now is very ripe to attract good people. And I think a lot of businesses right now are sitting back because the market's quite difficult. But one of the things that I'm doing in my particular organisation is I'm growing rapidly. You know, I grew nearly 70% last year from a headcount point of view. I expect this year I'm going to grow by 50% from a headcount point of view. That's quite ambitious. My reasoning for that is I believe right now this is a very good time to attract people, because when the market really starts to pick up, the one thing I guarantee you is the war for talent will be even harder. You know, to attract good people when the market's flying is really difficult and very expensive. Everybody in there and the businesses that you're in are all fundamentally driven by people. You know, so whilst I accept and I understand that you have to be passionate about your idea or your product, but I don't believe your products sell themselves. And essentially, what I've created within Hamilton Bradshaw Venture Partners is really that proposition where I've used the expertise of the businesses that I've got involved in, the businesses that I've built and the businesses that we've invested in. So I think from a business point of view, it doesn't really matter what market or sector's in, but understanding the sector, understanding the market, understanding the competition, because the one thing that I've learned in business throughout my journey is markets do change. You know, the customer base does change. Every single business I've been involved with now, at some point it goes wrong. And that's either whether the product or service that I'm invested in gets a bit out of date and competition comes in that becomes so fierce that it literally destroys the margin of the business. The whole space of business and entrepreneurship is not just about, I've got a great idea, I've got a great product, I'm making 10 million quid a year. The question is, how sustainable is what I'm doing today? You know, is this business today at 10 million? Could it be at 20 million? If I'm at 20, how do I get to 50 million? And the whole principle of Hamilton Bradshaw Venture Partners is really to work with the SME sector and actually take you through that journey. And what I've done is essentially use the experience that I've gathered over the years with all the businesses that I've invested in and how we've grown those businesses, and thought, if I was an SME out there, to get access to that expertise, currently the way you do that is you sell a stake of your business to a private equity firm, they come on board, and then they take you through that journey to develop growth. My idea was, but if I'm a business and I don't need the capital, but I'd like to have that expertise that the private equity industry typically does, because they do go in, and to be blunt, they are very good at taking a business from X to Y, doubling the profits, and everybody makes a lot of money. What Hamilton Bradshaw Venture Partners essentially is that model, without necessarily you selling a stake in your business. So the idea is really for us to come along, work with the management team, work with the business, come on the board with you, take that business through that journey of how you go from 20 million to 50 million, and use the expertise that essentially I've learned over the last sort of 25 years of business by attracting some exceptionally talented people into the firm. So at every market, every sector, and every size of business we work with, the whole objective is how do you take that and scale it, which is really, from our point of view, probably the most exciting thing.